Hello, everyone. It's Kate Stillman with the Yoga Healer podcast, and I have a great pleasure to introduce you to Fabian Farquharson. Oh, I said it
You did
wrong.
it right. Yeah.
I did?
Yeah.
Fuck her.
You were brave.
Okay.
You were brave.
And he's in UK now. He's on his way to Portugal. And this guy, I've seen his videos on different urine therapy groups. And so where the community's at in this urine therapy series or the Shivambu series is like people, they get a bit about like the what and the why and the how. And where I thought, Fabian, we could really start is like, you're really into, from what I can tell, into the alchemical transformations that happen on the spiritual level and the psycho-spiritual level, but then also having a deep understanding of the chemistry and the alkalinity and the ion level of what, like, why does urine therapy work? And that's really where I want to start the conversation of like, from your lived experience, but also from the experiments that you're running, why does it work?
That is a really, really good question. It's a really good place to start because with what I'm looking at the moment, which is it's an ongoing sort of research, so to speak, if you want to call it that, is that amino acids, and people have heard me doing this with some videos, and it's been going on for quite a long while actually now, because it's the amount that is within the urine. So amino acids is the building block of life. So what we'll find is that the bodily functions, yeah, they cannot be sustained and they cannot survive without amino acids, right? So for example,
yeah,
as soon as we have an issue with something called L-arginine, and we're not able, the endothelial cells are not able to produce nitric oxide, what happens is then our arteries then start to, so I'm going to start putting slides up and stuff like that. So what I'm speaking about is like this. Hopefully that will come up, right? Yeah, you'll have to bear, everyone that's listening, you'll have to bear with us, right? So one of the main factors is that this one, for example, the flow of blood. Now, everything that I say is all interconnected. So then on a metaphysical level, we cannot really get anywhere unless we learn to let go and we start to gain what I call a flow. Yeah, right. Now that same flow has to take place on a physical level within what we call the body as well. So we have a plasma highway that runs throughout our whole of our system, but we also have the blood, the cardiovascular system, the blood flow system that runs through the arteries, which runs through something called the lumen. And the word lumen, because I do a lot of etymology and stuff as well, the word lumen, lu means light. So there is what we call blood is a flow of light, which is traveling through our blood highways, but it's also contained separately in the plasma membrane within the plasma highway as well. So there's a two-way system happening here. So your initial question, so what actually happens is when any amino acids are running low, such as L-arginine and something called citrulline, these two work hand in hand to produce nitric oxide. Yeah. As nitric oxide diminishes, then plaque starts to build up within these arteries. As that starts to take place, the flow of blood starts to decrease. And this is why people have heart disease. We have this heart disease thing. So some things like heart disease and so on and so forth, and cardiovascular and metabolic illnesses, these are connected to erectile dysfunction, which is massive. So we know that when we were in the 90s coming out, you had this thing with Viagra. Remember, people started saying, there's this thing for Viagra. People need to start using it. And one of the things is this science has been heavily suppressed. It's massively suppressed, right? And one of the things that they said is that you didn't need things like arginine and things like taurine as well. I started with this with the taurines, right? And what actually happens is the science, the mainstream, the materialist science, right, which doesn't contain any spirit, didn't take into account and deliberately nullified the fact that we have to gain sources of arginine and citrulline. These are L-arginine and L-citrulline. So remember I said the word lumen. Lumen is within this, the artery is called a lumen. And the L-arginine and the L-citrulline, they are L's. They are L's because they're L amino acids. So L is the letter beginning for light, but L also symbolizes the three forces that come together to manifest physical life and also to manifest metaphysical life. And so what I'm speaking about is the actual energy field that surrounds any form of organic matter, right? And it is a threefold system. There's a three-way, there's three energies that are actually involved in that, right? One of those energies is a negative energy, is a negative force, right? And that negative force is within the urine, right? So the urine has this negative charge, right? But we won't go too far because there's that much I can go into. So the nitric oxide, this nitric oxide here, so if I just take that back off the screen, you can see, before I take it off the screen, you can see as nitric oxide diminishes with this slide that I'm using, as it diminishes, then we have this increase in the plaque. And that is the increase in pretty much all of the bodily functions. It starts to diminish and starts to decrease as this nitric oxide starts to decrease. And that nitric oxide is coming from the L-arginine, and it is also coming from the citrulline as well.
Citrulline.
Yeah,
got it.
Right.
Yeah.
Go on.
So is the negative charge, is that negative ions?
Right. Yes,
that,
it's connected to a negative ion charge. Now, those forces that I was speaking about that govern our reality, that is above. It is still negative, but it's a negative magnetism. But the negative charge is that we're speaking about here is born from that force. Yeah, it is born from that from that force. So even when we have lightning, it's down to there's a negative and positive interchange that takes place, which actually causes that. Yeah. So the negative charge is a negative voltage.
Yep.
It's a millivolt voltage charge, right? So that
and that's what causes movement. I mean, just to kind of break it down, like, right, that's because there's a charge, there's movement. Just like lightning coming down to earth, it has to go from A to B. What causes it go to from A to B? There's a magnetism, and there's a movement of energy from one place to the other, and that's what we're talking about in terms of voltage, is the energy that's causing that movement. And in that movement, things happen.
Electrical. Yeah, it's electrical. Yeah.
You know, in Ayurveda, they say that Vata and Prana. So Prana is a part of Vata, and Vata is that which carries. It's so you take energy and you break it into three parts, and you have, I mean, in one way you could say you have catabolism, metabolism, and anabolism. But in another way, you can say that like Vata is it's just the energy that moves things. Pitta, metabolic, is the energy that heats and changes things. And Kapha is the energy that coheses things. And so you have one universal energy going into it trifurcates, right? And then in that, the Vata energy that you're explaining, that charge energy, that in Ayurveda is Vata. Like that's the force of movement. And it's exactly what you're saying. It's electrical and it's voltage.
Yeah, so that's exactly, so you're always going to find that three-way system. It's the same as even in the Rosicrucian with the word, you always have the word and then the sound, but then you need the breath. You need the breath in order to create that three. So that manifests and brings life to what we call the actual word, because we bring it into physicality by that same three-way system, right? And then we can even go with the rest of the point I make is with the urine is that it's interconnected with everything that we want to be doing in terms of our growth physically and spiritually. Yeah.
Yep.
Because it's what it is, it's actually this essence of the soul which resides within the blood, right?
Yeah. So I was reading this guy who, the guy in Canada he's at the University of Alberta, and he runs the Urine Metabolome project. And so they've identified over 4,000 proteins in urine and other factors or compounds. And he was saying, like, when interviewed, and he's not into urine therapy at all, but he was saying when interviewed, he's like, it's like a fingerprint. You can identify someone by their urine, and it doesn't, that chemical composition, that like unique fingerprint of the individual and how we're all different, the unique snowflake self, like they're identifying that at the University of Alberta in Canada in terms of a metabolome project, where they're trying to find, like, what are all the different things that are in urine? What are all the different end products that end up in urine? And what they're finding is that I think they have the largest database in the world on this, and they help other people connect with that information in that database. So if anyone's looking for information on that, it's phenomenal. And they have all the chemical structures of all the four, I think they're up to like 4,700 factors in urine. And he's saying it's like your unique fingerprint. Like, you can identify a person by their urine. And so exactly what you're saying on that spiritual and that unique vibratory self, and how that gets upcycled, how that gets reintegrated and strengthened. It's cool to see that we're seeing that from, just straight up chemistry.
Yeah. And that's because, so then the spirit is connected to the science. So the real science would be a transcendentalist science, which would be connected to true transcendental spirituality, and which would then incorporate alchemy, the alchemical side within that. And then on top of that, then we can have the metaphysical on top of that as well, because because you're aligning the phosphate, which is a phosphorus, which is a light, and you can actually create light. You can actually create light using urine or salt waters. You can actually create light with that, because I actually capture plasma fields. And one of the things we use in that is an NaC1 salt in that as a process. So you can actually generate light with urine as well, because it's anode and cathodes, so forth. It's a force. So in 1666, I think the gentleman's name was Bernard. I can't remember his surname now, but we'll go into it. Right, that gentleman there in 1666, he was the first person to find through alchemy, through heating urine, that it contains a white light. Now, the white light which is phosphorus, and phosphorus is a white light. So urine, its energy within it, also contains a lot of phosphorus, right? So it's containing a lot of phosphorus. So what we're doing now is this. Let me just go back a minute. I hope I don't lose you a second, because what I'm trying to do is trying to go back to that slide. So there you are. So within the urine, it contains a lot of phosphates. So there's something called a parathyroid hormone, which is in your throat. And that parathyroid hormone, it releases calcium phosphates, which is within the bones. It releases them when there's not enough, right? Then what it does, it then sends them down to the kidneys, and it actually triggers vitamin D. So when there's too much, this is what happens when there's too much phosphates. So then those phosphates then get excreted within your urine. When you retake those, when you then retake those back in, you are then increasing your internal energy supply. Yeah. When you then breathe, deep breathe, which is why I encourage deep breathing with the urine.
Mhm.
When you do deep breathe, what actually happens is that you then trigger adenotriphosphate, which is ATP.
ATP, yeah.
Yeah. You then trigger that with the deep breathing. Yeah. But what you have done,
Because of the oxygen, right? Just to be clear, because because of the, okay.
Yeah. But what
You're oxygenating.
but
You're
you've
oxygenating what you're putting back in. So the calcium phosphate. Go ahead.
But you've taken in phosphates at the same time as well, because you've just released those through your parathyroid hormone, right? So then what happens is you've then intaken those phosphates, but then what happens? You got vasodilation, then your blood vessel. But what happens is then the oxygen is able to increase. Then the nitric oxide pathway becomes open through the endothelial cells because of the arginine that is also within the urine. Yeah. So what I'm trying to show you here, what I'm saying is here is what the urine is. There's something called energy, something that I call energy compounding, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Energy compounding. I use something called the wisdom mirror, which is a high level of wisdom that resides within this place, that resides above the word, right? And it takes a lot of what I call gnosis in order to get to recognize and to work with that wisdom mirror. So what it's showing you is that when you excrete that urine, when you then take the urine out, as I was saying earlier about these three forces, when you take that out of the body, it now becomes a living material matter entity as an electrical being with the millivolts, with a millivolt charge, right? It has a pH level of around 7, right? At that point there where you take it out, it then starts to generate its own field of magnetism, magnetic field. It then at that point starts to compound its own energy, and it starts to increase its energy field starts to expand. As its
Okay, stop. Wait, pause. So the I want to help the listener. So what I'm hearing is this: is the electrical energy is alive and well in the body. The urine leaves the body, and now that electrical energy that increases, but now you also have an increase of magnetism.
Right. So what actually happens is, so you're an electrical being, right? But what you can't on a metaphysical level.
Wait, and anyone who's forgotten that, like stick your finger in a socket, right? Like an electrical socket, and you'll remember that quickly.
That's it. Like, so the electricity that comes is just the effects. It's an effect. So when you come out, you were born, that was an effect. That effect was your physicality, which dropped down into electricity. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get back to the cause, which is a dielectricity, a magneto-dielectric force. We're trying to get back to the cause. So our senses and everything else are defined via magnetism, but our bodily actions, the bodily actions that we have, all the movement and everything, that comes from electricity. But above that, that generates the reason that we're stood here is due to the actual magnetism itself. So the magnetism is the mysterious background, and the things that we can't explain easily are due to magnetism. That's what we can't explain. So somebody can't really explain to you. I'll just take this slide off a minute and I'll go back to that. Somebody can't really explain to you on a simple level why. People ask the question, why does the urine increase in strength? Now, I've done a lot of experimentation on this, right? So why does it increase in its strength? Why does it increase in its negative charge once it is left to store? And the reason that is because every organic.
I just lost your audio.
Has. Yep, good. Can you hear me there? Yeah.
Yep, we're good.
Yeah, great. It has a magnetic field. Yeah, everything does, but you cannot see that. You cannot see that because it resides outside of visible light.
Yep.
Yeah. But the magnetic field, when we take the urine out, it then starts to oscillate. It starts to spin, right? And it starts to expand. And because it starts to expand, what actually happens is the strength of the urine starts to increase. And we know that this magnetism has expanded because its pH is risen. Yeah. Our energy. So when we flow, when we let the blood flow, and we create a flow within, our field starts to expand. When we do the opposite, and we're not able to get the arginines, we're not able to get the nitric oxides, we're not able to get the L-citrulines, which is what I'm going to put up in a minute. When we're not able to get, when we're deficient in these, and taurine as well, taurine's massive. When we're deficient in these, then we start to create a contraction. Our pH starts to fall, and the cell, the pH of our blood stays the same, but the pH of the cells starts to diminish and come down. Right. As that happens, we become exposed to things such as heart disease, diabetes, the cancers, and all of these things. Right. If we're able to keep the arginines, the taurines, the L-citrulines, if we're able to keep these things up and running, what happens is that there is no reason for the body to begin to break down. So when we put the negative charge on top of that, we are now entering the area, reversing the aging. I'm just trying to get we're in the area of reversing our aging. Right. Because what the negative charge does is it goes to the DNA and buffers it and cleans it like a buffering system. See? Right. So that slide that I just had on, if I just pull that back up a minute, right? Now, people can see here now, we can squash all the arguments and all the things about urine through this knowledge, because this list here is a list of all the amino acids that are within the urine, right? So if you go to lysine, halfway down, you can see there's something called lysine. What lysine does is it diminishes viruses and things like that, right? So if we go to there, you can see arginine at the top. And you can see citrulline there as well. And there's another one called L-ornithine, which plays a massive role within the bodily functions. And you can see taurine. So taurine, when the heart is low on taurine, so when somebody drinks,
so taurine's almost that's showing it's almost the same in plasma as it is in urine on the taurine.
So, but the word taurine, the word urine, taurine. Because urine, if you look at that taurine, if I take away the TA, you'll see that it says urine. See? Now taurine, it plays a role in keeping the heart activated, keeping the heart moving. It also plays a role with calcium in creating new blood cells, brain cells at the same time as well, within the brain at the same time. So the urine needs to be taken in through the nose and into the brain. So what I'm saying is, so when we age that urine, what happens is the negative charge goes up on it. So its ability to reverse your aging actually increases, and the brain suffers with oxidative stress massively. The arginine triggers off glutathione. It triggers off something called an NRF2 pathway. So what the arginine does, the arginine actually deals with many bodily processes that are designed to clean the blood, which is what negative charge is. What we're doing here is we're cleaning the blood and opening the blood vessels to allow the blood to flow. And erection is what you would associate with a youngster. So sexual drive is what we associate. So I'm basically saying here, is based on our inability to understand spirit science, our chemical science, spirit science, and based upon how our understanding from a materialist perspective on the way biology works on the body. Yeah. So really, what it is, amino acids are the building block of life. If you can sustain the amino acids, so I'm going to try and bring up one more slide. If you can sustain the amino acid, these amino acids, then there's no reason for the body to break down in any way. So L-citrulline, you can see here, is used for Alzheimer's disease, dementia, fatigue, muscle weakness, sickle cell disease, it says erectile dysfunction, high blood pressure, and diabetes. Right now, where you're going to find these, I use a different slide on my last presentation actually, and I've got another one coming up, another presentation coming up, this lost tussle that I'm doing, where I'm equating this to this practice is a tantric practice. It should be used within tantra, at the same time as well. So let me just go back to that what I was looking for. So we can see I think this is the urea cycle on here. There we go. I don't think about that one there. Right. So you see here that, so you see where it says urea, it's involved in the urea cycle anyway. In the urea cycle, when amino acids get broken down, they get broken down from amino acids. Ammonia gets broken down from amino acids. So then you have urea. So arginine and citrulline, they themselves are a byproduct of urea. So what they're telling you is that they're telling you that urea is a waste product, but at the same time, what they're saying to you is that L-arginine and citrulline, both of these are a byproduct of the urea cycle. So what we're going to break down here now is that you are supposed to be drinking your urine. You are supposed to be drinking it. You're supposed to be drinking it because they will tell you in their materialist science that L-citrulline and arginine, both of those are excreted as what they are saying is as a waste product. When we can show you clearly here that all of them are actually involved in the upliftment and the not just the advancement of the human being, human avatar, but they are also involved in the stability of your physical vessel. But yet they will tell you that they are there to be excreted as waste. So like I've just shown on that slide, involved in the urea cycle.
So can you tell, so there's this, and I just want to say to that, it's like, for people listening that don't do it, it doesn't make any sense. When you do it, it's like, that's the experience. Like that is the experience. And that's what I keep finding in like writing the book is it's to some degree, it's not worth looking at reductionist science from non-users when trying to understand what this is, because the lived experience and yoga in Ayurveda have always come from the avatar, from the human lived experience of what we're talking about, not from an analytical outside in very limited reductionist explanation. What I want you to do is break down what happens as urine ages and the most like how things change. Because to me, so when I first started studying Ayurveda, that it was an alchemical science was like, that's what the tantrics were all about with Ayurveda, like with the alchemy of like the fountain of youth and like how is the body as alchemy and ecosystem as alchemy? Like what is the deep level of interconnectivity here? And that was a large part of what drove Ayurveda. And when you look at it through the lens of urine therapy to understand the alchemy of urine. I think it gets very, very mind blowing, because I mean, to someone who's totally new to urine, right? I mean, new in the way of like it, other than flushing it down the toilet, you're new to it.
Yeah.
You start to notice if you start to get into urine therapy, one of the first impulses that people have is to collect it. And to me, it's very deep biological. It's an instinctual, like once you have a relationship with your urine at all, it's like putting it on your skin, putting it on your tongue, putting it on your feet, putting it in your eyes, like whatever you're trying to uplift in your system, you start to use it very quickly. What is recovered in the, I would say in our ancestral wisdom, is collected. And now as soon as you collect it, the alchemical game is on. And it happens fast, right? Like what changes in the urine happens fast. And what you're talking about in terms of the charges and the changes in the chemical composition and the alkalinity. Can you give us a little bit of like what is happening? Because I'm pretty confused about. I mean, well, let me just share this. So from my Ayurvedic experience and from my my now lived experience with this, where I have this intellectual knowledge from Ayurveda for 20 some years. And then I have a couple months of heavy use of urine. What you described and what happens with the aged urine and the breathing practices, I go mountain biking a lot. I live at altitude. I bike hard. And I have an aged urine pack in my bike pack. So I drink the aged urine, and it's not very old. It's only like a few days old. So this still feels like it's pretty high in ammonia. And I can feel it opening my sinuses up, right? And you can feel the change. I've noticed like my heart, there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of that electrical energy.
Yeah.
And let me just say one more thing. I'm like the Energizer Bunny. Like my thermogenesis has shifted. So like if it's really, really hot out, it's been really hot, the West is drying out and becoming a desert. I don't overheat. And I have and at the end of the ride, at the end of the mountain bike ride, I could do it again. Like I have very, very little fatigue. So everything that you're explaining, I'm like, yep, that's happening. Yep. Check all those boxes. And I've done a lot of other types of things that have very positive effects on the body, like cold plunging and intermittent fasting and whatnot. But there's another level that happens with what you're talking about with aging urine and deep breathing. So what is happening so the urine comes out of the body? What are some of the chemical changes that it goes through? Just sort of step by step. I know you've already said a lot of it. I just want like the urine aging alchemical changes for dummies.
Yeah. So I mean, what you're talking about there. So once that urine it comes out, it goes through what you call this oxidation process as well, right? So it starts to oxidize. And what you sometimes find is the longer that urine sometimes in it ages, it's just to be a bit darker on the top and stuff like that. Yeah. And then that's going to be that can be stronger as well. What happens is that there's different types of aged urine as well, based upon what you are consuming. This is what I was saying about the wisdom mirror as well. And it's because it's a direct connection with your soul essence. It knows. Yeah. So you can smell your urine and know when your urine is ready, because it's connected with your subconscious mind, which is connected to a universal mind. So your actual urine, when you take it out, it goes through this oxidation process. But what actually happens is it starts to move towards, because your body's made out of gases, right? So the urine also is gases as well. So as it starts to what you oxidize, which we call ferment, right? It's like a ferment.
Yep.
At the very bottom of it, you start to see like white stuff forming, which is as it starts to crystallize itself. It starts to become crystallized. It then gathers its own. Each urine has its own different energy signature, partly based upon what you were previously consuming. No different to a high-tech avatar is a high-tech kit, right? So no different. So whatever you were consuming, what you should consume, ideally, really, if you want to work with aged urine, is fruits, is the fruits. It picks up its own energy signature, yeah, due to the, like I say, as it comes out and with the oxidation process, and then what happens is it then starts to become stronger, but it's intelligent. It's intelligent. So it starts to gain more of a structure, starts to gain more of a structure, but the magnetism starts to increase the electrical force that is actually within that urine. And as you leave that urine, it then starts to become much stronger. And then once it comes to the pH 9s, we know that it is ready, because you sit in the mother's womb for 9 months and you sit inside of an amniotic fluid. And I'm saying, and what I'm teaching here, what I'm saying here is that aminos, AM, which is alpha male, because you can't be much of an alpha male in the materialist world with the erectile dysfunction. So alpha male is AM, which is morning, which is the rising of the sun. So it is a phosphorus, which is like connected to Venus, which is again, it's coming from the actual kidneys, right? So the kidneys will excrete ammonia to create a balance. They will do that. But the ammonia that's in the urine is a different type of ammonia to what you find outside. This ammonia is an organic ammonia. It's the difference. Same with the nitric oxide. When it's external, if you started breathing it, it could cause you problems. But the nitric oxide that gets generated within is different. Yeah, it's an organic substance. Yeah, it's an organic ammonia. So it's very different. So I mean, I've got like a few slides on here. So for example, this one here with nitric oxide. So it says, and while female anatomy is different, the sexual arousal and entanglement is also dependent upon nitric oxide, causing vasodilation for greater blood flow, leading to a more satisfying experience. So you are having sex with yourself for your daily interactions anyway. So what I'm saying is, what nitric oxide is, it's like a force. Like I'm running on it now. I'm running on that, and I'm running on lots of other things as well. At the moment, I'm running on hydrogen, which has got that's like a 600 negative electric charge. What these things are doing is separating the blood. It's cleaning the blood, cleaning the blood, and it's separating the blood cells. So you see, this is all working on levels, and that's what I was saying about energy compounding. You're compounding energy when you take that urine out. It automatically starts recognizing that's, if we go back, 10,000 years more, then the urine was still here because people were still here. It's only our level of intelligence and our level of knowing that is restricted and limited based upon the last 5, 6, 7,000 years. Yeah. So
yeah, I'd say a lot. I'd say anyone who's gotten to like the heavy user category of urine therapy has an innate knowing of that. Like humans have known this. Humans have known this. We forgot it, but we've known this deeply.
So if you look at that one here, this one here, this is what this is saying is, it is that you can actually, if we were in the area of right hand path tantric, so you can use this sexual force. The urine is a sexual force. Yeah. So you can use the urine to increase that sexual force and to flip it up the other way using negative magnetism, by when one doesn't ejaculate and when one doesn't even excrete. So then you can use it even because you're creating a stillness, because everything is a paradox. So some people have said to me in the past, so is this only based around men? So now you can see here, no, it's based due to the vasodilation. It's both masculine and feminine. You're increasing your sexual force. What is that doing? It's increasing your sexual drive. What is that doing? It's in connection with reversing your aging.
Yeah, I mean, it's turning it. Yeah, it's turning on the creative power. Fabian, this is absolutely fabulous, and I have to go. I think we need to schedule part 2, and I want to point everyone to your YouTube channel. So Fabian, the way you learn from Fabian the Master is Transmutation 2020 on YouTube. Can we schedule part 2?
Let's do that.
Okay. because we have so much more to talk about. We got to go into the whole tantric side. We have to go into the whole, what's happening on the psycho-spiritual side, what's happening on the enlightenment side, and the grounded enlightenment. And I want to share some things that I've seen in my community, working with Ayurveda with people for years, and I'm seeing breakthroughs happening much, much faster as we're adding to the daily yoga routines, as we're adding urine therapy in. I'm just seeing like really hard to crack cases with trauma and with, whether it was like early childhood trauma, accidents, injuries, this stuff, are people that have a lot of, and Ayurveda, like very, very high vata, like really hard time living in the real world today, just having major, major breakthroughs. So I want to unpack why that's happening, et cetera. This has been amazing, part one. Likewise. You're amazing. Let's keep, we'll schedule part two coming soon.
Yeah, coming soon. We'll see you on the next one.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks.
Brilliant. Peace and love.
Peace and love to you.
And sensitiveness. See you soon. Bye.